Hi, this is Angela. Welcome back to my channel. Today, as promised, this is my first video, and today I'm going to be talking about finding the strength and the courage to leave a toxic relationship. You'll see me often looking down because I took some notes. And the first thing I want to talk about is understanding the mental of leaving a relationship. You're in your head a lot and you feel a certain way and you just look down on yourself. But in order to help with that, I think writing an affirmation or a mantra would help you. So I did write an affirmation, and this is one that I wrote just recently, and hopefully this will help someone. So I'm going to read it. Spirit, give me the strength to leave this toxic relationship. I am worthy of having a healthy relationship. I am beautiful. I am amazing, and I am strong. Believe in yourself. So it's something you need to say to yourself daily. Don't sit around and look down on yourself because you're in this relationship. Don't be ashamed, and don't let anyone put you down. And I do want to say at this time, so this is my disclaimer, if you are in a relationship and it's very violent and you feel that you're going to lose your life, or the people around you, such as your children, are going to lose their lives, I suggest you call 911 right away. Don't sit around and try to figure out mentally how to get out. Let's use God-given common sense and call 911. And also, if you need a place or somewhere to go and you don't have friends or relatives, I would suggest you call the domestic hotline. And that number is 800-799-SAFE. 7233 is for SAFE. So again, 800-799-7233. And they have available resources that you can use. Okay, so back to what I was saying about finding the strength to leave this relationship. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself. In my relationship, as I mentioned, it was over 20 some years ago. I was much younger than I am now. My mother was living at the time, and I didn't know that she would be passing soon due to her illness. She passed maybe 18 months during the relationship. She told me when she had met the young man that this was not the one that I should be with, and I should consider coming home. Being on my own, I didn't want to go home, and I just felt that I could do it. So I stayed. And she also said to me, this is not the one that you should be with, but during this, I'm going to pray for your safety and that God bring you through this alive and safe. And as you can see, he did. And I also want to point out that this is not a religious channel, but this is just my belief. My mother did pass after after what she said, and I just felt some sort of way. I felt like I knew I needed to get out, but at the point I couldn't, because everybody thought that we made the cutest couple and that we were a wonderful relationship. Were in a wonderful relationship. So I kind of wanted to keep that image, but I knew that it wasn't the right relationship to be in. And I'm not here to bash my ex or at that time, or any man for that matter. He wasn't living right. And when I say that is, he was into drugs and things of that nature. So that made the relationship very hard to get out of. He was ex-military, so he would tell me things that put fear. So listening to him talk and the things that he said he was going to do made me feel stuck. I was fearful. He at one point recorded my conversations. He followed me, and you know, all the typical things that a person does when they're in an abusive relationship, or I should say the typical things that an abuser does in a relationship. So I was fearful. Uh, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have anyone I could turn to. I was ashamed to tell my friends. I was ashamed to tell the people that I worked with. I worked in an insurance company. I had a few jobs and was close to my supervisor, but I could never tell her what was going on. I kept up a good pretense. No one knew. So I said all that to say this. I felt that if I told someone what was going on, they were going to tell me that I was stupid for staying, that I could leave, and they don't understand why I'm still there. So you can't always leave when you want to. It's not something you can just open up the door and walk right out without having repercussions for your actions. So I had to think about it. We had children together, and I just really had to get into my head, so to speak. I had to stop trying to please him, stop trying to fix him. That was my biggest mistake. I figured that if I did this today, maybe he wouldn't act this way. If I had everything a certain way, maybe he would be okay. It never worked. Nothing I did made him stop. So I'm saying to you now, if you're in a relationship and you think that it's you, it's not. I'm not here to bash the person that you're with. I'm just saying you can't fix that person. That's not your calling. That's not your job. Your job is to stay safe and to get out of this unhealthy relationship as soon as you can. Because once you leave, you'll feel relieved. And it's not easy to do. So I'm not saying that I was able to just walk out of the door without him following me and still becoming an issue. So I just started, back, during the time I was being abused. It wasn't a big thing, people just thought a woman could leave and she was just staying for sympathy, and she was weak. By no means necessary are you weak, and I wasn't weak either. So keep in mind, your self-esteem is something you need to work on. Don't worry about what other people are going to say. Don't sit back and forget about yourself. We both work, as I said. Sometimes he wouldn't work because of the drugs he was taking, and he would leave a job. So it was stressful on me. So what I started doing was starting to save money, much as I could, to get out of this relationship. The relationship wasn't always bad. So some days it was really good, and some days it was the person that I met when we first started the relationship. And some days it was the person I met when we had our children. But other days it was hell. It was hard to be in. I couldn't talk to his mother or his sisters about it. They knew, but they stayed away. So I had no outlet, you know. So I just, when things got bad, I just went to God. I stayed to myself, and I just stayed away from the family. But I started to save money. I started to find the strength to not look down on myself. I started to ignore what people said about a woman that stays in an abusive relationship. I started to do some research. I started to keep things to myself. I didn't become anxious or doing things out of the ordinary. I just started to one day at a time, take one day at a time. And I started to plan. I started to make sure that I spent much time with my children. We started to come home later. I started to move in silence. When I knew he would be at home, I would make sure I would make sure that I caught a later bus. I would take the children to the park. And when I got home, sometimes he would be there. But since he was into drugs, his thing was trying to get out to go in search of getting drugs. So I would just, come home, try to keep the kids around me because he did not abuse our kids. Um, and I focus on getting them ready for the next day. So all the things that I was going through, I kept the stress as much as I could away from my kids. Now, I'm not going to tell you that they probably didn't hear or see some things, but as much as I could, I tried to keep it peaceful for them. And in doing so, I started to build myself up. I started to not look at myself as being useless, worthless, stupid, and ignorant, because by far I'm neither of those things. I just started putting my faith in God. And I started asking and praying that He would help me to get out of this situation. And I didn't move right away. I listened for direction. So I'm here to say that if you listen to God or whoever you believe in, directions will come again. And I want to just remind you, if you are in a relationship that's going to end up where you did, please don't stay. Call 911 as soon as possible and leave. So with that being said, I was committed to making things change. Just as I was committed to the relationship when we got into it, I was committed to not being broken and beaten down. I was committed to not letting my children see a life like this. And I had one girl, so I didn't want her to think that this was okay and this was the type of man that she needed to find, because it's not. This God didn't put me with somebody to beat on me so I could try to fix them and make them better. That's not my purpose. And I know I've said that before, but it's something you should understand. You cannot fix a damaged person. As the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. So you can't stay in a relationship where every time you turn around, you're not doing anything right for them. The signs of seeing a relationship like that, you'll notice that they try to isolate you from family and friends. And he was good at that. Every friend that he met of mine, he didn't like them. He had something to say about them, and he didn't want to spend time with them. So I felt myself sneaking out to spend time with my friends, or, trying to take my kids around people. And that caused a lot of issues. So altogether, I just stopped, when I was on the phone talking to a girlfriend and he walked in, I had to get off the phone, because I knew if I was on the phone, he walked in, things were going to be terrible that night. So I also would, when I hear the car pull up, and if I'm doing something with the kids, I would get up and start to make sure the house was the way it should be when he walked in. And I was a nervous wreck. And just knowing the things that I knew he said that he was going to do kept me stuck. So I was there based on the fear of it all. As I mentioned earlier, he was ex-military, and I didn't know what he was going to do because there was things he always said he would do. So what I did was I just dialed it back a little bit for myself. I stopped being so anxious about him coming home, and then I just started to kind of live in the moment. So I would be a mother to my children, and I would make sure things were okay, and I would get them to bed. And when he came home, like I said, some days were good and some days he was in a mood. When he was in a mood, I would try my best not to stay around him. I would go to another room, watch TV or read a book or do something that I wasn't constantly sitting there so he can start pick on me. Now, that didn't always work. Sometimes he would come in the room and terrorize me in the room. So with that being said, you just got to find your calm place. You got to know how to get out of a situation, and you have to know that you are worthy. So I'm going to end now, but I will be back with some more tips and some more things. And hopefully the next video I'll have tips, probably 1 through 6 to help you get through this. But thank you for tuning in, and please like my video, share, and subscribe. And if you know someone that's going through, please help them. Don't make fun of them. Don't make them feel like they're worthless, and just be that shield of protection that they need without you getting involved or being hurt. As I mentioned before, if you're in a violent situation and you need to leave, please call 911. And also, you can call the domestic hotline, 800-799-7233. Again, thank you for listening.